Well, welcome everybody. We're excited that you are joining us for today's Civic Scholars program information session. My name is Genesis Steele, and I'm the coordinator for Civic Engagement programs at the Gephardt Institute. And I'm joined today by the fabulous Teresa Kuo, the Assistant Director for Civic Engagement Education at the Gephardt Institute. It's always a mouthful, and I always botch that. I apologize, but trust me, she is absolutely 115,000% fabulous.
Fabulous.
Well, we wanted to welcome you to today's session. I want to keep in mind that today's session is a recorded session, so just in case there are other students that are unable to join us today, we want to make sure that they're able to view today's session at a later time. And during the session, for all those in attendance, we invite you to leave your cameras on and your microphones on mute if possible. And if you have any questions, feel free to submit them in the chat. We will definitely be able to take a look at those and respond to your questions once we get into the program or move through it a little bit as we go through the program. And then also, I have a sign-up sheet that if you can just take a minute to sign, you'll see a link in the chat in just a few minutes. But it's very brief, and it's a way for us to let you guys know who's in the room, and then it's also a way for us to help improve our programs by knowing who's here and then following up with you at a later time for your feedback and for more information. And during today's 60-minute presentation, we will be providing you a thorough overview of the Civic Scholars program. And we'll also provide you with the next steps if you're interested in applying to the program. We'll also go over the key dates for the program and then any additional information that you need to know. And so I am going to turn it over to my fabulous colleague, Teresa Kuo, for additional information about the Civic Scholars program.
Thanks, Genesis. Hi, everyone. So for those of you who attended our signature program info session last week, which was sort of a broad overview of our Gephardt programs, today we're going to deep dive. Some of it will be a little bit repetitive, but then we're going to deep dive a little bit more into the Civic Scholars program and the process for applying to the program. So some of this, if you were here last week, again, will be just a good overview for you. So welcome everyone. The Civic Scholars program is a signature program of the Gephardt Institute for Civic and Community Engagement. Our mission, if you are not familiar with us, is to foster a vibrant culture of civic engagement throughout WashU, realized by engaged citizens, scholarship, and partnerships that advance the collective good. And when we use the language of citizens, we're not talking about a legal status. We're really talking about sort of reclaiming the idea that we are all citizens in the communities that we're a part of, and how do we contribute, no matter what your status is, to the good of our communities. So Civic Scholars is really situated in this first goal around educating students for lifelong engaged citizenship, but also infusing that civic engagement throughout your WashU experience. So some people are asked, what's the Gephardt Institute, or what's a Gephardt? It is actually named after a former congressman. So Congressman Dick Gephardt is our founder of the Institute. He served in Congress for over 3 decades. He turned 80 on Sunday, so he just celebrated a milestone birthday. And our institute is really founded in his spirit and in his embodiment of how he approaches civic engagement. So I think this quote in particular is a really good indicator of who he is and what he stands for, and by extension, what the Institute stands for. So I'll quickly read it. What is at the core of why our democracy functions as well as it does? In the end, it is because of the presence of our citizens engaged in governance and in the communities they live in, helping people who need help, being involved in the dialogue that has to go on in a democracy. So this really is reflective of what the Civic Scholars is how are we engaging in our communities? How are we engaging in our democracy to make our communities better? So that's a little bit about the congressman and our founder. I'm looking at my slides and not yours, and that's why I'm like, why is it not advancing? Okay, so a little bit of background on the Civic Scholars program. So the class of 2023 is actually our 11th cohort, which is really exciting. It's still a fairly new program, but pretty well established by now. Our first class of Civic Scholars was a cohort of 5 students that formed in 2012, and they graduated in 2013. We recruit for this program students across all schools across campus. So it's not just an arts side program. We have students in Sam Fox, in the McKelvey School of Engineering, in Olin. So just know you don't have to be in arts and sciences. This really is a really great opportunity to actually connect with students from different colleges and schools as well. All right, so because this is our 11th cohort, the exciting thing about this, you all as the 11th cohort, is you'll be able to participate and celebrate in our 10-year program celebration, which we've had to delay due to COVID, but it means that we get to bring in more folks into the fold as we celebrate with now an alumni community of over 100 Civic Scholars who are all very much still involved and invested in this program. So I wanted to take a second just to talk about civic engagement. It's a really broad term, and as you're writing your applications, you might be thinking, oh, what should I focus on? What should I write about? Really, civic engagement is how are you engaging as an individual or in partnership with others to make your community a better place. And this could take form in formal ways, like through structured organizations, volunteer opportunities, or leadership opportunities that you've been involved in. But equally as valuable is also those informal ways of civic engagement. So it could be helping your neighbor with groceries each week, participating in protests for an issue that is really important and resonates with you. Whatever the activity is, it really is about a commitment to promoting the quality of life in a community through both political and non-political processes. We really, through this program, value the broad range of perspectives and ways of which people engage in civic engagement. And it really makes for a richer cohort experience. So if you're someone who's like, I'm not really sure if I have civic engagement experience, like talk to us about it. And I'm pretty certain that if you are someone who is dedicated to making your community a better place in any way, you have civic engagement experience. So don't be shy about highlighting the ways in which you exemplify civic engagement in big ways and in small. Right, so a little bit about the Civic Scholars team at the Institute. You have met me. So I am the Assistant Director for Civic Engagement Education at the Institute. I'm the lead instructor for the Civic Scholars program. What that means is I do a lot of the design and curriculum development for the program. I teach both cohorts of the Civic Scholars program. And then I am supported by my little coworker here, Evan, who figured out how to come into my office just now. Supported by Genesis, who is really the one who makes all the behind the scenes magic happen. When you are emailing Civic Scholars at wustl.edu, you're emailing Genesis, and she is sort of the first point of contact to make sure that you have a great experience when you're engaging with any staff from the Civic Scholars program. While I teach, it's a lot of people in the cohort to manage on my own. And so we always bring on a co-instructor to the program. This year with our class of 2020, the instructor is Dwayne T. James, who is not affiliated directly with WashU. So he's not on faculty or staff here. He's actually on staff at University of Missouri Extension. So he's a community leader. And so we're really excited to have someone who is embedded in community and does this work day to day outside of the WashU context to be able to bring that into our classroom and into this work. Other instructors in the past have included, you may know, Austin Sandoval Sweeney, who formerly worked with sorority and fraternity life and campus life, and then Ali Skipma, who is a residential college director in UMRATH, maybe has switched around since then. We will reach out and determine who the co-instructor is for the class of 2023 closer to the start of school. There's a lot of fun stuff happening in my background. Thanks, Genesis. Can we go to the next slide? Okay. So I think the best way to explain Civic Scholars is to say that there's sort of two parts to it. There's the course and then the course plus, which we'll go over. So like any other academic course, you know, you'll have a syllabus, there is a reading list, there are assignments that you'll have to do. The academic course track for the program is 6 credits in total in American Cultural Studies and Arts and Sciences. There's one seminar each semester your junior year from 3 to 5 p.m. on Thursdays, which are 2 credits each, and then a seminar class your senior year, which is 1 credit each semester. This 9 to 10 a.m. on Tuesdays is sort of a loose guide, but our seniors are currently meeting from 5:15 to 6 p.m. So on Mondays. So there is a little bit of flexibility with the class time senior year. It's much more difficult junior year because of the 2-hour block of time. The course plus of the program are all the other components of the program that happen outside of the class. So that includes what you are probably most familiar with is the 5,000 Academic Summer Award to implement a civic summer experience or project after your junior year. It is a major part of the program, but is not the only or focal part of the program. There's a reason why it happens in the middle of the program. It's so that we can also use it as a reflective opportunity your senior year to think about, okay, how do I integrate this into my life and in my civic pathway forward? There are also presentations and celebration events that happen throughout the experience. So Idea Bounce happens your junior year. It's the public pitch for the first time that you give to share what are your ideas for your civic summer, what are your passions and interests, and we help to connect you with community leaders who may be able to help facilitate some additional connections for you. Pecha Kucha is an event that happens senior year in the fall. It is an opportunity. So Pecha Kucha itself is a presentation style. And so we would walk you through how to do that, but it's essentially the format that we use for folks to present back how they experienced their summer, what they learned, what impact they had, etc. Each year we have an all civic celebration to celebrate each of our cohorts. So our newly selected class will be invited to that. So it's an opportunity to welcome the new cohort, to send off our juniors to their summer experience, and then to celebrate our seniors who will be graduating shortly after. And then senior year, there is a senior toast where we invite the senior Civic Scholars, your families, to just celebrate this experience and connect with one another's families. Junior year, there's also an overnight retreat that happens roughly around this, roughly between the 2nd and 3rd week of class over a weekend. There are lots of networking and mentorship opportunities. And then we have fall break immersion trips. So we rotate. Next year will be in DC. All things going back to some sort of normal, we will be going to DC. And then St. Louis in fall 2022. As a new thing that we may be developing tentatively is also introducing what, for the first time, spring immersion trips. This would include Jeff City, so looking at state capital policy and politics, and then rural Missouri experience in the spring of 2023. When I say spring immersion trips, before anyone freaks out, they do not occur over spring break. I would never do such a thing as to take away anyone's spring break if we have learned nothing from this experience this year of removing spring breaks. I know better. It would happen likely before the start of the spring semester. So the only potential conflict is anyone who's involved in sorority recruitment during that period. But I will give you an academic reason to get out of it should you desire. So that's a little bit about the program plus components. I just wanted to take a brief moment to go over a few things to consider before you apply. You know, I want people to make an informed decision and make sure that it's right for you before committing. It is a significant commitment inside and outside of the classroom. And we have some of our Civic Scholars here today who can talk to you a little bit more about their personal experience with that. And so what that also means is it is a graded course that includes deadlines for assignments and projects. There is a syllabus that outlines the classroom requirements that's distributed at the beginning of each semester. And then you are expected to attend special events that may require public speaking, mentoring of younger students, and meeting supporters and donors of the program. I may be missing some other things. You know, we also often will call on Civic Scholars to be speakers on panels, to contribute writing, things like that. So there are these additional requests that may be made. All right, so the application process itself. You'll complete the application online. It's fully online now. You can click on the link there, and we'll also drop it into the chat so you have it directly, but you can peruse that. Everything can be submitted online. In addition to completing the application, you'll attach your resume. There's an option to drag and drop a resume. For your resume, we really want you to focus in, share with us all of your WashU affiliations, and highlight your civic engagement experience. Those could be paid opportunities, those could be volunteer opportunities that you have been a part of. It could be here locally at WashU and in St. Louis, or it could be in your hometowns, wherever that may be. Highlight all of those things and let us know all of the ways that you have been engaged. And if you feel like, oh, I don't have like a ton of experience, that's okay too. We really do value again, a variety of different experiences and engagement to really help think about how are we also constructing a cohort where people can learn and grow with one another. There are certainly valuable things that you can contribute, even if your direct experience with civic engagement is a little more limited. You'll submit one letter of recommendation. That recommendation should be emailed directly to civicscholars.wustl.edu. So when you're making your request to your recommenders, please make sure they know and that they have this email address to submit that letter to directly. Your applications and letters of recommendation must be received no later than Friday, February 19th by the end of the day. So you have until midnight to get it in. But because it is an online form, I really do recommend that, you know, you plan early so that you don't hit any like issues with technology or things going through. So Genesis doesn't receive 10 copies of your application because you nervously are like, I'm not sure if it went through. But you should receive a screen that tells you that it's been accepted. So I wanted to also briefly highlight the essay questions. What's a little bit different this year, which I think is actually really exciting, is that we have common application questions. So whether you're applying to Civic Scholars, to Goldman Fellows, Arts and Civic Engagement, or a new Berline Fellows program, all of the applications will contain these two questions. So, and that's in part because if you decide that you want to apply to more than one, you're not writing like 8 different essays, but you're writing 2 standard ones and then 2 additional questions for each program that you expect to apply for. So the questions are around your civic and community engagement experience. We just want you to provide one example of how civic or community engagement has been a part of your experience, why it's important to you, and how you aspire to work in these areas. And then thinking about how you will commit to this after graduation. A note, all of these essay questions have a word maximum of 400 words. That is one, to make sure that our selection committee members have enough time to review all of the essays and applications. And then we want you to try to like zero in and narrow in on some of those key experiences that have been really important to you. You might be saying, oh gosh, 400 words, but you are asking all of these questions in this like essay prompt. Those questions, you don't necessarily, those questions are to prompt you in your writing. They're not necessarily, the expectation isn't like you need to answer all of those questions, but in like one after the other, but it is like more like, here are some questions to help you really think about talking about your civic experience. Can you go back one more, the previous slide, Genesis? The second question is around civic discourse. We want you to talk about a time where your beliefs or attitudes were challenged when engaging with someone from a different community or someone who held a different political ideology from you. What we're really trying to understand is like, how do you engage in those conflicts? How do you learn from those experiences? Because with Civic Scholars in particular, we really do want to encourage like a culture of dissent where it is okay to disagree, because that's where we learn the most, when we can really dig into like, where do those differences come from and how do we make sense of those as we all are committed to civic engagement work. So the two questions that are specific to the Civic Scholars program, the first is around your civic summer ideas. These are just ideas, they are not commitments. We want you to propose a potential civic summer plan. And so I want you to just note here the intentional use of the word plan versus a project. Because it isn't about proposing like, what is this one tangible thing that you're going to do or create? Maybe that is something that you want to do and that's great. But for some people, maybe your plan is like, this is what I want to learn. These are the skills I want to build. These are the communities that I want to grow in my connection to and understanding with and alongside, and that's okay. But we want to see, how are you constructing or ideating or thinking about what's going to make you a better civic leader, a better civic agent, and how can you utilize this summer and create a plan for this summer that can reflect that. What you write in this essay is not a commitment to what you will do if you are selected for the program. I will tell you, many of our civic scholars who are selected propose something and then do something totally different. I think maybe in a cohort of 16 to 18, I have usually 2 scholars a year who are like consistent with like what they proposed in their application and what they actually end up doing. This is really, we just want to understand your thought process and what you're thinking. And then the fourth and final question is about the cohort experience and expectations. I want to understand, what are you hoping to learn and gain from others in the experience? What are you hoping to give? Because all of us have something to contribute and take in this experience. How do you engage in conflict typically? And like, how do you see yourself really benefiting from the cohort experience? So those are the 4 essay questions that you can expect to answer. Again, the 2 common application questions and the 2 Civic Scholars specific ones. The other programs each have their own 2 specific questions, although I think all of them probably have something similar with the cohort and expectations question. All right. I think that's it for me. I'm going to pass it back to Genesis to talk through the rest of the process, and then we'll have some time for questions.
All right, thank you so much, Teresa. So I know you guys are probably wondering, well, what's next? We do have one additional information session just in case you want to relive this wonderful experience this week. That will be on Friday from 12 to 1. And then during the week of February 16th, we will be providing the opportunity for any of the interested applicants or prospective applicants to drop in during drop-in hours. This is where you'll have a chance to engage one-on-one with a Civic Scholar or a member from another program and to get some feedback either on your application. Maybe you might have questions about certain questions. They're there to provide their insight. But one thing I'll do share is that they're not going to write your essays for you. So it's a great time for you to ask questions just to get some clarification on some things, and maybe even ask them about that, go into a deeper conversation about their experiences within the program. And so we invite you to participate in a drop-in session. You can do one or more, it's up to you. The first drop-in session will be held on February 16th, and the next one will be February 17th. Both of those drop-in sessions will take place from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. and it will be held virtually. If you've received a nomination letter, you would have already received the links for those. But just in case you're wondering where you can find the links, you can definitely email me at civicscholars@wustl.edu, and I'd be happy to provide that Zoom link for you. The final drop-in session will be held on February 18th, and we've extended that one for 1 more hour because it's the day before your applications are due. So just in case you just wanted one more look over of your application, you want to make sure it's perfect, we invite you to attend one, again, or more of these drop-in sessions. And again, you can follow us on Instagram for the links to the sessions, or you can just email me directly for more information. I'd be happy to share. With regards to what happens after your application is submitted, there's a process that it does go through. Essentially, your applications are reviewed by a 6 to 7 person selection committee. The committee is made up of WashU staff and faculty from across the campus. Once they have had a chance to review your applications, final applicants are notified for a 25-minute interview. This will be, the notification will go out approximately around March 3rd, March 4th, and the interviews will actually be held virtually on either Friday, March 5th, or Saturday, March 6th. And all you have to do is attend one virtual interview. So you're not interviewed on both days. It's just one virtual interview for 25 minutes on either one of those days. And you'll receive if a candidate makes it to that level, they'll receive an email asking for them to choose a date and a time that works best for them. Finally, 17 selected Civic Scholars will be notified by Friday, March 12th. So it's a very exciting day for those 17 folks. And then also we will be notifying 3 alternates. And so you definitely want to be on standby for the messaging, and it usually happens via email. A couple of things, just some final reminders. Don't forget that the application deadline is Friday, February 19th. And if you have any questions or additional questions for us in the meantime, don't forget you can email us at civicscholars@wustl.edu. And if you haven't had a chance to do so, don't forget to take a moment to sign in for our event today. And we just want to say thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure to see so many beautiful faces, and we look forward to, hopefully we'll keep our fingers crossed, but we want to see those applications on the 19th.